Liuzhou is the birthplace of ancient humans in South China. White Lotus Hole. There are relics in Dalongtan site. It has been 3,000 to 7,000 years since now. In 2020, the population in Liuzhou was nearly 3.75 million. The town of Liujiang is in water quality. Liuzhou water quality has been ranked first in the country for many years. Liuzhou, the old mayor of ancient times, once said the Liujiang River is like 9 islands, winding by mountains and rivers like a picture. Now the 100 miles Liujiang like 100 miles gallery hovered beside the river. I was born and grew up in this picturesque city. It's a charming city with beautiful environment, natural environmental protection, and spring all the year round. Liuzhou, also known as Stone City. There are many strange stones around people can make people imagine. It's a karst landform. The scenery and the culture of Liuzhou are integrated together. And what I feel most during the European travel is that the scenery and the culture can be embedded together. I can't understand the magnificent and distant scenery and prefer to travel around the city. I always think the beauty in life more authentic. The magnificent scenery can only make me marvel and can't resonate. Just like Nanning, the city construction and the architecture of Nanning is fashionable and beautiful in conscience. But when I walked for several kilometers, could find my favorite snacks. So the decoration windows was the same product photos in the exquisite shop. I didn't have the interest to go in and taste them, because they were full of the R&B and the smell of machine assembly line. I don't get much spiritual comfort other than filling up my stomach and getting fat. Summer walking in the hot clean streets, sweating mood instantly agitated. A city without a soul is really hard to find true charm. Food is the life of the people. We citizens don't have big dreams, and eating is the fast way to relieve the pressure of this stressful era. But these assembly line restaurants make us pay extra price. It can't relieve the pressure, instead made more pressure on us. Liuzhou is different. Even if you walk into any alley in hot summer, you can instantly feel the coolness. And you can find some cheap and distinctive snacks with good taste, which can't only solve the problem of hunger but also recall some childhood memories. There are 1.93 million people from 33 ethnic groups living in Liuzhou, accounting for 52% of the total population. There are 56 ethnic groups in China. Guangxi is one of China's 5 ethnic autonomous regions. Guangxi is the region with the largest Zhuang population. It is said in the Tang Dynasty. There was a girl of Zhuang nationality named Liu Sanjie in Luocheng, Guangxi. She often sang out the suffering and the dissatisfaction of the oppressed people. A rich man called Mo Huairen wanted to occupy her as a concubine. Invited 3 scholars and the competition sang with Liu Sanjie, but they lost. He became so angry that he wanted to kill Liu Sanjie. She's on a bamboo raft, run away and live in a cave in Fish Peak Mountain. Her brother, afraid that she would get into trouble if she continued singing, picked up thick and heavy pebbles from the river and asked her to pass them through the corner of a handkerchief. Sanjie sang a song. Old brother is crazy. Take a stone to younger sister pass through. Soft cloth, how to through storm, unless your sister become a fairy. Her mournful song reached the ears of the 7 fairies in the sky, who took a hairpin from her hair and shot it at storm in the hand of Liuzhou, piercing a round hole in the middle. The elder brother can't stop the Sanjie from singing anymore. Since then, Liuzhou's song often surrounded the Fish Peak Mountain. But not long, Mo Huairen knew the whereabouts of Liuzhou, sent officers and men to surround the Fish Peak Mountain. Villagers holding sticks and hoes to fighting with officers and men. To save the village, she jumped from the mountain into the water of Little Dragon Pool. The wind was blowing and the sky was dark, with a flash of red light. A great golden carp jumped out of the water and took the Sanjie up into the clouds. Since 2015, only people in Guangxi have 3 days off on the March 3 of the lunar calendar in the country. We with folk songs, eat 5-color rice and some traditional customs to commemorate of Liuzhou. Liuzhou has always been a heavy industrial city. Automobiles, metallurgy, and machinery are the pillar industries. There are also textile printing and dyeing factories, Chinese medicine factories, toothpaste factories, sugar making, paper making, building material, daily chemicals, and other light industries. But they seem to have moved to other cities or closed down in last 10 years. Liuzhou has a spicy rice noodles with a spiral shell. They has a special flavor. At present, there are some people who like it so much and some people who hate it smell very much. Some people who open special rice noodles restaurants in other places have been complained to close the shop. Liuzhou special grow under small stone along the river. The special grow on good water and stones. After being cooked by the people of Liuzhou who are clever and skillful in making use of food materials, they become delicious snacks with crisp, smooth, and nice taste. In Malta, I buy snails as a substitute for my cravings. Ignore of my cooking skills, but better than nothing. Eating only special is not enough. Most people in Liuzhou don't like vegan food and more prefer rice food. One day in the early 1980s, a group of night shift workers who drinking wine and eating special still feeling not enough. They asked the boss to cook rice noodles and add them to the special soup. They find very delicious and satiety stomach. Since then, special rice noodles has become the favorite of Liuzhou people. Basically, the first thing every Liuzhou person does when they return to Liuzhou from other place is find a bowl of special rice noodles to eat, which is full of ritual feeling. If we does not go through this ceremony, we will feel that something is missing. Liuzhou Railway was built in 1939 and completed in 1940. The main section is Liuzhou Iron Bridge, which is the first bridge across the river in Liuzhou City, with a total consumption of 1,350 tons of steel. The bridge played an important role in the transportation of strategic materials during the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the transportation of southwest China. By 2021, 22 bridges has been built in Liuzhou, and 2 bridges are under construction. 2 bridges are planned to build in the future. Now, half an hour you can go everywhere in Liuzhou. The transportation is very convenient. The Liuzhou Railway Bureau was established in 1953. making Liuzhou the only one of the 8 railway bureaus in China that is not a provincial capital city. Its jurisdiction covers Guangdong, Guangxi, Hunan, and Guizhou. In 2007, Liuzhou Railway Bureau moved from Liuzhou to Nanning. The Liuzhou Railway branch used to be located opposite the Liuzhou Railway Station, and my father worked there all his life until he retired. My house is 200 meters away from the railway station, so I can see the train coming and going from my balcony. When I lived in Guangdong, I often had to take the train. At that time, my biggest wish is that there was a small door next to my house so that I could enter the station directly. As the children of railway workers, there was a little special mark from birth. I studied in Liuzhou No. 1 kindergarten, Liuzhou No. 1 primary school, and Liuzhou No. 2 middle school, until I went to Liuzhou No. 3 middle school to study in preschool education teacher's major. There are some differences between the railway people and the Liuzhou local people. The railway have a large number of outside to help with the construction. My father is from Nanjing. Liuzhou city are certainly local people. We have very different pronunciation. We can understand each other, but our accent is different. Until I was 15, all I met were railway people, and when I first went to school in the city, I was teased for my accent. Later, it took me 3 months to basically change into Liuzhou dialect. Maybe my passion for language learning was rooted from then on. I need very careful clarification of one thing. I'm in Liuzhou No. 3 middle school for preschool teachers' professional learning, but I haven't finished 4 years study, has half semester not learning, so do not have graduation certificate. When the reporter interviewed me, I didn't have time to explain it. Liuzhou No. 3 middle school for preschool teachers' professional learning is more famous, so I said directly, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. In particular, I want to say sorry to my teachers and classmates. As a student of Class 2 in grade 1986, I'm an ignorant and incompetent student. I'm sorry I weren't good enough. It's not easy being a new blogger, and I'm ready to prepare to face all kinds of problems in the future, including all the online violence abuse. I cherish the nearly 4 years we spent together, and I still have many good memories. But please rest assured, I will take all the responsibilities myself, and try not to cause trouble to others. Anyway, I would like to thank reporter He Jiquan and his colleagues. They let my family and friends see me. Several of my friends found me through the newspaper. We met them when we were filming on a riverbank, and they saw us filming. They came up, asked what we were doing. When they found out we were doing the show, they started their interviews. They took Colin to find the Wushu master and helped him find the Chinese songs. It made our trip more perfect. Search for Liuzhou information is relatively short. Here, different than many big cities. Neighbors know each other and help each other. Pace of life is slow. Most people don't have a lot of money, but they live well and enjoy family together the life. I think Malta is also like this because the country is not big and the family often get together for dinner on weekends. There is a lot of contact between families, and of course there is a lot of affection. I think that's why cities like ours has less depression than big cities. When I really wanted to write Liuzhou, my mind was empty for a few days and I could not write anything. Sometimes I feel that thousands of words cannot be finished for it. And sometimes I feel that all the feelings can't with words, and there was nothing to write about. It was a strange feeling. You can see how beautiful the city of Liuzhou is in the picture, and I would going to explain for the moment. What I want to say is the little things I have experienced in life. I said that the little things I have experienced in Malta made me fall in love with Malta. Maybe Liuzhou is also the same feeling. During the Spring Festival in January 2012, the cadmium pollution in the Liujiang River section in the upstream of Liuzhou exceeded the standard by 80 tons. At that time, I heard some people went to supermarket to panic buying water. But I don't think I can buy water in that time. There was no bottle of mineral water at home. Every half hour since the incident, the phone received a new water quality report. The meaning of the message is, if the water can come out of the tap, the water is up to standard. I was drinking water from the tap and looking the message in tears. Glad I didn't go to Joy Rush to buy water. At 11 a.m. on August 20, 2018, aviation's wounding incident happened on Wenchang Bridge in Liuzhou. Half an hour later, the news that the hospital was in urgent need of blood spread all over the social media of friends. Seeing the news, I hurried to one of the blood donation houses, but there was already a long line of people ahead of me, and I silently stand in the back of the line. Some people even jumped the queue because they want to work immediately and want to donate blood first. It was a hot day, and no one complained about it. About 10 minutes after I arrived, several cars arrived and I saw some people unloading some water and food from their cars. Next to the line, there were 2 more tables. Several volunteers filling out blood donation forms. Some people stuffing our hands with bottled water, bread, snacks, and a bag of sparrow shell rice noodles. Later, I learned those who bought the food were all passers-by, and no organization was spontaneous. No one was saying much, but everyone was quietly doing what they could. I was moved to donate blood. 794 people donated 250,000 milliliters of blood in less than 10 hours that day. I just found out from data that Guangxi ranks 9th in terms of blood donation and blood collection in 2020. It's very high compared to the 19th in GDP and the 25th in per capita salary. You can imagine that although many people are not rich men but spiritually rich, we live in a very loving city. At 9 p.m. on June 9, 2021, I suddenly received a message outside that the power failure in my area is currently being repaired. About an hour later, I received the message that the power was back on. But not 3 years ago, one night I bought seafood from Nanning. Nanning seafood better than Liuzhou, shrimp, crab, and skin shrimps more bigger and fresh, and salmon, durian, and some fruits from the next city to enjoy the next day. When I got home at 10 o'clock in the evening, I found that my house was dark and without electricity. I quickly searched everywhere and found a piece of paper at the door, which said XX building, XX unit, XX power failure due to a garage. But I paid the electricity bill. Look carefully, it read not our building, it's next building. I called China Southern Power Grid Corporation at that time, but they said we were in railway area outside their jurisdiction. However, I have to stay in a hotel with a refrigerator for one night. I was still afraid to bring seafood back from Nanning up to now. At present, there is not much difference in hardware between big and small cities, but software facilities and humanistic feeling can reflect the different charm of cities. Liuzhou has treated me gently for decades, which has warmed me and made me a warm person. Chinese wives don't need to take the husband's surname, but most families have children with the father's surname. In most places, there is a clan concept. It's people with the same last name from one region to another, no matter how far they go or how many generations have passed, they think they are from that region. Between us and the clan like roots and branches in the trees. Some of the towering branches are far away from the roots, but the roots will still use their own water and nutrients to nourish the upper branches and the leaves. What we can absorb from the clan is the culture concept. The positive family training is like the foundation. No matter how high the building is, it can be strong and solid. Since I grew up in Liuzhou, I have been doing various activities with my mother's clan since childhood. My mother's ancestral home is in Rong'an Dongqi Township, Hongri Village. It's not easy really for modern people to live in scattered places. But the descendants of the family every 3 years, the clan gathers in front of the Long family ancestral hall. Our ancestors used this way to unite our future generation to stay close together. I went to party twice, and each time there were a lot of people. There were many tables in front of the Long family ancestral hall. We were very happy to drink and chat there, eating local chicken, duck, and pork. I took a lot of photos and kept them, but now when I need to do video, I spend several days but can't find it. The Long family have a family tree, but I'm with other surnames, so my name isn't in it. My great-grandpa and Li Zhongren, they are classmates of Guilin Army Primary School. Li Zhongren is leader of Kuomintang, the first vice president and acting president of the Republic of China. At that time, Guilin was the capital of the Guangxi. It used to take 2 days walk from Guilin to Liuzhou. My great-grandpa every time back home had to go to Li Zhongren homestay to eat and live for 1 night. On the second day, early in the morning, get up to go home. After Li Zhongren joined the revolution, he asked the great-grandpa to go with him, but great-grandpa did not go because of his wife and children. Then he's working in the hometown. But he trained 2 revolution people. One is went to Yan'an Long Teng, the third son of Long family. One is we never met Grandpa Long Zhengze. They made a great contribution to the fight against the army aggression and the nation liberation. They are heroes. Li Zhongren gave our family an island, but grandpas gave it to the state after liberation. My once great-grandfather was a Juren in the Qing dynasty. Guangxi only 45 people can become Juren every year in that time. Juren can be exempted from tax. If Juren commit a crime, must to disqualify Juren can be convicted and sentenced. A man named Fan Jing went crazy because he was so happy that he passed the exam for Juren after many years. You can imagine the influence of Juren in ordinary people. Then my once great-grandfather went to Beijing 3 times but failed to pass the Jingshi. After that, he concentrated on leading the village to cultivate agricultural products. Later, he invented the method of sterilizing the soil we like, so the crops can be protected from pests to increase the harvest. Upon hearing the news, the emperor gave him a plaque. which has been hanging the Long family home ever since as a badge of honor. Because the original photos was lost, so I specially came over to fill up for the photos. My grandfather total of 5 brothers and sisters. The big grandpa has a long beard of wisdom. We call him Big Grandpa. He inherited his father's hobby of studying and devoted himself to research and learning. He is a teacher trained many talents in Rong'an. His son, my uncle, was the director of Rong'an County Hospital before he retired. My grandfather was the second child. He was a train driver and devoted his life to the railroad. In my memory, my grandfather is a kind old man who does not love joking. When I was 6.5 years old, my mother went to Beijing to study for a year. My dad beat me violently while educating me, so I started to run away from home for the first time. I took a bus from the East Railway Station to the house of grandfather on Eshan Road. From then on, grandfather's house was my refuge. Whatever I was beaten, I would run to my grandfather's house to escape punishment. It can be said that I spent more time in my grandfather's home than at home. And my grandfather's open education style made me very relaxed. But now I still regret that I did not study hard at that time, so that now I have poor basic knowledge and it's really difficult to learn and improve myself. My grandfather's hands often take books or newspaper to read. Fortunately, the environment in my childhood was such an intellectual atmosphere, so that I didn't lose the learning environment at least. Most of the time, Grandpa just read books and newspapers and didn't say a word. But when his brothers or sister came to visit, he would smile from ear to ear. But that time I was a kid. I feeling their topics so boring, always go out. Missed the opportunity to communicate with the wise. After I went to work in other place, I would visit him every time when I came back to Liuzhou. He would also give me the kind smile, which made me feel very warm and relieved every time I saw his smile. In 2006, when I went back to Liuzhou with the colon, I didn't go to see him, but he knew about it from the newspaper. He kept the paper until I came back, and the only copy of the paper I have now is from him. After I returned to China, I often went to see him. At that time, he was still in good health, and the reporter He Jiquan took him as an interview subject for the elderly. He also took a stick to beat mice. But one day he fell down and was admitted to the hospital with less and less food intake. His body became weaker and weaker. One day my cousin called me and told me to hurry to the hospital. I went there and watched him smile left us. He was 100 years old. He has been my spiritual supporter for a long time. Until now, I would go to him and tell him about my troubles. The memory of him smiling at me always gave me infinite strength. Long family third child, Long Teng, was not content to spend his whole life in a mountain village. He carried dry food through the mountains from which it had been very difficult for them to get out. He took a few days to get to Liuzhou for exam, but the journey is far away. When he arrived at the examination room, the examination has ended. It's dark. He begged the teacher to give him a test opportunity. To high scores into Liuzhou High School began a prominent life. Later he went to Yan'an to study at the anti-Japanese War University. Heard his story are legendary. Once he was chased and injured. He was rescued by a woman who hid him in a pile of straw for more than 10 days to survive. He ate a build to stay alive, and I still can't imagine how to eat build. During the Cultural Revolution, he was tormented every day, with his crime written on a small black ball hung around his neck. Sometimes some people throw stones or hard things and beat him, but he never complains, always faces life with enthusiasm, and tells his children not to worry about life getting better later on. After the Cultural Revolution, he was rehabilitated without a trace of complaint, and threw himself into his new job with enthusiasm. When we were young, a group of children saw a kind old grandfather who loved to laugh. We affectionately call him Fat Grandfather. Our family does not pay special attention to appearance and figure. It's not derogatory to call Fat Grandfather. He served as the county magistrate of Liuzhou County in the early liberation period and chairman of the Liuzhou CPPCC after the Cultural Revolution. The industrial base of Liuzhou originated from the Liuzhou magnetic factory in 1928. Thanks to Liuzhou, he was aware of the importance of industrialization in the midst of warlords. So he started a factory for the army, and is said to have made an airplane. The model is in Liuzhou Industrial Museum. Grandpa used to be an official in Liuzhou. The fourth child of Long family, Long Zhenzhe, can be found on search software. He was born in 1916 and was a pilot. Nanjing, China, Anti-Japanese Aviation Martyrs Memorial Inscription 884 heroes, including Long Zhenzhe. His memorial tablet is enshrining in the Yuanshan Loyalist Temple in Taipei, Taiwan, China. There was a year difference between the third and fourth children in the Long family. When they were young, it was widely known that the two brothers were too naughty. No family wants to make a child marriage for them. In ancient China, the social circle was close, and some family elder would start from the children to make a marriage contract for the boy and the girl they thought suitable. The lack of restraint made the two brothers play more recklessly, but they are intelligent and never forget their reading. They had excellent academic performance in school. At that time in the school few girls. When the school held an entertainment party, Handsome grandfather will play a girl. He played Hua Mulan, Mu Guiyin's role. In 1936, he was admitted to Guangxi Aviation School with the highest height in that field. Later merged into the Central Aviation School. After graduation, he served as a second lieutenant pilot. In 1939, he went to Yining, Xinjiang to receive flight training under the guidance of the Soviet Union. He became a member of Squadron 24. Air Force Group 4, he flew a variety of models. His number was 681. Once a female classmate of his third brother wanted to see his third brother. At that time, his brother was studying Yan'an University. Yan'an anti-Japanese military and political university. It's now renamed National Defense University. He driving a fighter plane take the girl to Yan'an for meeting and take her flight back. I can think of the most romantic thing is someone driving a fighting plane as a taxi riding you on a date. Even though I have watched many idol dramas, I can't imagine how romantic this is. The Flying Tiger are the Air Force unit composed only by Americans who volunteered to participating in the war against Japan in 1941 to 1942. Under the organization of the Chinese Air Force, it was called the American Volunteer Brigade. The capital was Chernot at that time. This unit repeatedly repelled the Japanese attacks in the blue sky. The morale of the Chinese army and people was so boosted that they called them Flying Tiger. Their outstanding performance enabled them to be incorporated into the regular army. They disbanded the American Aviation Volunteer Corps, be part of the 23rd Group of the U.S. Army's 10th Air Force. In 7 months, at a cost of 12 aircraft lost in the air and 61 destroyed on the ground, it shot down 150 enemy planes and destroyed 297. The volunteer group lost a total of 26 pilots. On my own behalf, I would like to pay them the most respectful tribute and thanks. Their sacrifice for the justice and the peace of mankind is respected, and they are true heroes with noble and holy souls.
飞虎队的故事承载着中美人民在世界反法西斯战争中用生命和鲜血铸就的深厚友谊。80年来，飞虎队的佳话在中美两国代代相传，历久弥新。中美应传承这一友好情谊，增进了解，相互尊重，和平共处，合作共赢。正如习近平主席在同拜登总统视频会晤中指出，中美作为世界前2大经济体和联合国安理会常任理事国，应该加强沟通与合作，既办好我们各自国内的事情，又承担起应尽的国际责任，共同推进人类和平与发展的崇高事业。中美应该同国际社会一道，共同应对当今全球性挑战，促进全球发展，维护公正合理的国际秩序，为维护世界和平和人类正义做出新贡献。这是我们今天纪念和弘扬飞虎队精神的价值所在。中方愿同美方一道，以实际行动落实两国元首视频会晤的精神，保持对话沟通，加强交流合作，本着平等互利精神，推进各层级、各领域交往，为中美关系注入更多正能量，推动中美关系健康稳定发展。
This is a speech delivered by Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian on November 18, 2021. The Chinese people have never forgotten the contribution that the Flying Tigers have made to the Chinese people, and we will always remember these heroes. This history is too long. I will talk about it after I collect information. In 1941, when he accepted a Soviet plane home to the Himalayas from Kutch, India. This is the Han route, also known as the Death Route. The weather changed abruptly and was freezing. He used gliding technology to return to India. A record of man-machine double scales was reported by Chinese and foreign newspapers. On this route, more than 70 tons of materials and 33,477 people were transferred to the Chinese battlefield by the two sides in more than 3 years. The Air Force lost 563 aircraft and sacrificed more than 1,500 people. In 1942, he took part in the air combat, covering Guangzhou Airport under the Japanese air raid, shooting down planes in succession and warning one. In October 1943, the Sino-American Air Force was established in Guilin, and the grandfather became a member. The Max Air Force once planned surprise attack on Chongshan Airport, now Haikou in Hainan. After repeated reconnaissance, they found there were 30 to 40 expulsion planes, more than 30 bombers, and more than 10 air defense firing points in Chongshan Airport. They taxi the plane to the designated area in the early morning in order to avoid the enemy radar detection. 10 of all radio silence waiting. At 9:40, 15 minutes before the aircraft of the linkage team took off to Chongshan Airport, the sea area, they disassembled all the additional fuel tanks, then thrown into the sea. At 12:25, each formation aircraft entered the target area from different directions to attack enemy aircraft. Grandfather destroyed enemy ground 4 planes and destroyed 2 planes about to take off. When they returned home in triumph, they were glad by cups of brandy. In the first year of establishment, the mixed wing carried out more than 5,000 attacks, successively attacking Japanese bases in Haikou, Xinde, Yueyang, and other places, damaging 420 enemy aircraft and sinking 1,215 enemy ships, effectively destroyed Japanese transport line and gaining air superiority in South and Central China. In January 1944, the Japanese planned their last major operation in mainland China, Operation Plan 1. The main purpose was to eliminate the American Air Force in China and open up the Guangdong-Han Railway in order to transport supplies and troops to support the Japanese Army in Southeast Asia. On April 30, 1944, in Liangshan, Sichuan, today is Liangping County, Chongqing, he went to fight an air raid siren, and the engine of his plane failed when he returned. In order to save the valuable aircraft, he once again used the extremely difficult gliding techniques to implement a crash landing. Landing into an obstacle near the airport friend wheel broken. He died at the age of 28. I cried when I wrote this paragraph. He was a natural and unrestrained youth, but he sacrificed his life for the faith in his heart, because his remains could not be found in the chaos of the war. His eldest brother in Chongqing to retrieve his keepsake, and from Liangshan County holding 2 hands of soil back to make a cenotaph for us to commemorate him. At that time, the Guangxi government built a small farm at the Yangtang Airport in Guilin. Huang Xu, chairman of Guangxi province, wrote in his own handwriting, Longzhenzhe Farm. A matter of the Air Force was commemorated. As long as I can, I will return to visit his grave on Qingming Day. He died unmarried and childless. We are all his descendants. I have never met grandfather Longzhenzhe, but listening to his legend for decades has influenced my spiritual world. I like to watch recent war documentaries and current news. For made the next picture, I searched the aviation video for a long time. It reminds me of we had very few planes before. We start worrying about not having enough equipment from that time. If we had so many planes, my grandfather wouldn't sacrifice. Thinking there were too few planes for the founding parade 70 years ago, our Premier Zhou Enlai ordered them to fly twice. I would like to show some pictures of the 2021 Zhuhai Air Show. I believe grandfather were able to see and pleased with it. Grandfather, please rest assured this golden age is as you wish. When you live in this golden age in the afterlife, I really hope I can protect you this time. My grandfather's youngest sister. My grandmother, she is 96 years old this year. Her 2 older brothers used to take her hunting when she was a child, and they were very good shots and often hit the prey. The family concept of intellectual is relatively open. There is no concept of same preference. She also went to school as a child and later worked as a regional party branch secretary until retirement. My mother has also received a lot of education and is very enterprising. Often go to Beijing or Shanghai to study for half a year. After retirement, went to Vietnam to work. It can be said that my family is very early women and men the same. Qingming Festival is the 5th of the 24 solar times in China, April 4 to 5 each year. Almost every child has read this poem about Tang Dynasty poet Du Mu's Qingming. Qingming comes with heavy rains. Passers-by on the road want to break their souls. Ask where is the restaurant. The shepherd boy points to Xinhua village. On this day, the old and the young of the family gather together and bring wine, meat, food, fruits, and sacrifice to the tomb of the ancestor to offer sacrifices. People put the offering in front of the tomb, pour wine, light candles, insert incense. Kneel in front of the tomb, kowtow to pay homage. Now the urban area has a unified maintenance management tombstone. Cannot sit of firecrackers memorial ceremony is much simple. But in the countryside, the memorial ceremony will be much more grand. People will first remove weeds from the graves, wipe the tombstones, and insert new hanging flowers. In ancient times, willow branches were inserted. Now we can't break branches, change it to hanging paper flowers. More offerings are placed in the countryside. More sacrifices will be placed, and the incense will be inserted around the whole grave, and the firecrackers are set off after worship. The purpose was to help the ancestors drive away bad things and beasts through noises and odors. Qingming Festival is the most delicious season when the tip of wormwood leaves are green. A traditional Chinese medicine. People mix half of wormwood leaves and glutinous rice flour. Put sesame sugar filling inside. Make it into a round cake shape and steam it. We call it Ai Ba Ba. Ai has the same pronunciation with love, which means beautiful love and lucky. Baba's pronunciation Papa. It's everyone's favorite snack. People often bring some sacrificial rites to their ancestors. After the sacrificial rites, everyone is tired and hungry. At this time, take 1 or 2 Ai Ba Ba can replenish energy. Talk about their current situation, which is a wonderful time to get together. The old man said our ancestors protected the sacrificial food. Eating it can get luck and longevity. So we should eat some of this food for everyone to share. Our family attaches great importance to the Qingming Festival. Relatives both abroad and out of town come back as often as possible to sweep the grave. It's a time when family get to remember their ancestors, to thank them for giving us life, for teaching us to have faith, and we promising them to be a good and upright people. Finish sacrificial activities. We will get together to drink and eat and talking, enjoying the happy life created by our ancestors.